Hello, I am Dr. Ray Mulstock, a lecturer in the University at Albany program in Writing and Critical Inquiry, and the director of the C.H.A.T.S Film Festival and Lecture Series. The 8th annual C.H.A.T.S Film Festival and Lecture Series is presented by UAlbany's Center for the Humanities, Arts, and Technosciences, C.H.A.T.S, the UAlbany Libraries, and the New York State Writers Institute, with help from the Writing and Critical Inquiry AI Committee and the Alumni Association. Our film festival and lecture series is an interdisciplinary, student and community-centered public humanities film program that aims to generate conversations and cultivate community relationships through a selection of culturally diverse films and lectures that expand academic discourse beyond the classroom and foster critical inquiry into real-life current situations through the arts. Our theme for 2023 is derived from the current discussions of artificial intelligence in culture and the arts. While academics reel and tech companies celebrate, the C.H.A.T.S Film Festival and Lecture Series explores the shifting and significant place of AI in the arts, not just in the products of AI or the production technologies that they bring to the film set, but also the cinematic thrillers, mysteries, romances, and horror that are inspired by the nightmares and fantasies of where AI can lead us. The lectures and films screened and discussed at the 2023 festival raise questions about loving, learning, living, and working with AI in both extraordinary and mundane circumstances. Artificial intelligence represents the capacity for humankind to imagine a future augmented by machines, a merger of the intrinsically human with the emphatically artificial, so that the boundaries between them become blurred. This year's festival explores these rich liminal spaces for the fears and fantasies that they represent, all the while celebrating what it is that makes humanity unable to be replicated. A few weeks ago, I had the absolute pleasure of speaking with this year's keynote, Dr. Naomi S. Barron, over Zoom. Dr. Barron is a Guggenheim Fellow, a Fulbright Fellow, and Professor Emerita of Linguistics at American University. Since 2008, Dr. Barron has been publishing books that identify and investigate the challenges to the, quote, classic understanding of reading, writing, and language in an increasingly digital world. Her newest book, just published a few months ago, is Who Wrote This? How AI and the Lure of Efficiency Threatened Human Writing. The conversation has been uploaded to the Film Festival YouTube channel, so please check it out. Tonight we have Fritz Lang's famous Metropolis, introduced by Professor Rick Barney. Rick Barney researches and publishes in the areas of 18th century British plots of enlightenment, education in the novel in the 18th century, England studies, critical and cultural theory, gender studies, and film. He is currently working on several projects, including Sublimations, a book-length study of the link between early modern medical thinking and the representation of sublimity in the 18th century literature, an essay on Edmund Burke's revision of contemporaneous ocular physiology, and a collection of interviews with filmmaker David Lynch. He teaches graduate courses on 18th century fiction, philosophy and criticism, and contemporary critical theory, and undergraduate courses on critical studies, 18th century British literature, and film. He is also the director of the UAlbany English program, Honors Program, English Department Honors Program. So if you know anyone who's interested, please let me know and I'll pass it on. The Order of the Elusive, the band that will be accompanying tonight's film, was formed by Bradford Reed, who, when he was a teenager, inspired by bands like Sonic Youth, invented an instrument called the pencilina, which I am sure he would be happy to discuss after the film. He has played the instrument in several bands, including Satellite and the Harpoonist, Anthems and the Void, the Dirt Whisperers, and for live film scores, Real Orchestrette and the Order of the Elusive, which we will hear tonight. Recently, he has been jamming with AI in Patch and Read projects. Order of the Elusive is Bradford Reed, Zach Layton on the 17-string bass, and Jeff Gersh on guitar. And please stick around after the film for an open discussion with both Rick Barney and Order of the Elusive.
Hi, everybody. Just a few words, not to take too long to get us started, but a little context, a little sense of Lang if you don't know much about his career, and then we can get into all the nitty-gritties later when we come back to talk after the film is done. So Fritz Lang was born in 1890, lived until 1976. He was an Austrian writer, director, and producer who worked in Germany at first and then later on in Hollywood. His first movies made in Germany include, and that's why I have this little list here in front of me, The Spiders in 1919, The Weary Death, 1921, M, one of my favorites, 1931, and The Testament of Dr. Mabuse in 1933. It's roughly around there that he senses trouble on the horizon with the rise of Nazism in Germany. And within a few years, I think by the late 30s, he finally emigrated and moved to the United States, living in Los Angeles for pretty much the rest of his life. There's a big hiatus then in terms of the films that he probably would have been producing every other year from the 1940s forward. But in the US, the movies we most think of when we think of Lang include things like The Big Heat, 1953, While the City Sleeps in 1956, and Beyond a Reasonable Doubt, also in 1956. The great film director Jean-Luc Godard actually cast him as himself in 1963 in a movie called Contempt. And I'm sure, given what we know of Fritz Lang, that he believed he deserved that. So we really are beneficiaries of something that, for me, is almost like a small miracle, which is a longer film than people had for decades after the film was first released. In 1927, the film came out. It was based on a story that was published by the woman who became Fritz Lang's wife, Thea van Harbo, who published it first in a magazine, and then later it was published as a novel the year before it was finally released as in the film version that she also did the script work for. She and Fritz Lang did a lot of collaborating on film projects all through the 30s after that. The thing about it, however, is that when the film was first released, it was received, as you could say, tepidly. Not a lot of enthusiasm. It was about 2 hours and a half long, and the producers said, "Oh my God." So a huge amount of cutting went into play, in which about a quarter of the film was removed from its original version. And then a whole bunch of other censor and editor types got involved when it was distributed in the US and in Britain and so on and so forth. In many ways, some of it being kind of politically squeamish. Oh, that sounds too communist. Or, and you can guess here, that's a little too sexy. In any case, that material was lost. Even when people years later wanted to find out what the original version was like, no one knew. When you went to see the shorter version, you would get little placards, the little title cards that would say, "We don't have this part," more or less. And in any case, that's how I first saw it until recently, because it was in the 1990s that some curators in a museum in Argentina said, "You know what? This looks like the entire film." And they were shocked. Everyone thought that there was no such thing. They had to go through a lot of work to get it, first of all, just viewed by experts, especially in Germany. And finally, in 2001, the Murnau Foundation in Germany sponsored with financing the remaking, the restoration of the film in the way we are going to be able to see it tonight. So all the kinds of weird inconsistencies people thought were there, or why did that happen, or other things that seem puzzling, now really aren't. And a number of scholars have actually repraised their feeling about this movie, or what they think about it, in terms of what many of people will use, the word art, for the kind of thing that Lang did. So that's enough for now. It gives you at least a feeling for the film itself, and I look forward to our talking afterwards.